שלום ג'נין.
שלום גיא, מה שלומך?
תציגי את עצמך למי שלא מכיר.
אנחנו חברת תעופה
איך קוראים לה?
אווירונאוטיקה, שאנחנו נמצאים ביבנה, ואנחנו מפתחים כלי טייס חדש.
בואו נהיה קצת יותר צבעוניים וקצת יותר חיים. אתם מפתחים מכונית מעופפת.
טוב, ככה אוהבים לדבר עלינו, אבל באמת זה מסוק לכל דבר שיכול להיות הבסיס בעתיד למשהו שזה נגיד מכונית מעופפת. אבל בינתיים כל הטכנולוגיה זה טכנולוגיה של מסוקים, זה טכנולוגיה של אירוספייס מאוד קונבנציונלי, עם כמה דברים לא קונבנציונליים, שזה בעצם החדשנות
כן,
שלנו.
חדשנות.
אני מתנצלת על העברית
זה
שלי.
בסדר. בואו שנייה נעזוב שנייה את החברה,
כן,
אבל
כן.
בגדול על העולם הזה של החזון המדע בדיוני הזה של כלי רכב מעופף.
כן.
עד כמה אנחנו רחוקים ממנו ומה מבחינה טכנולוגית חסר לנו כדי להגיע? תכף נגיע למה אתם עושים, אבל בגדול אפילו.
יש כמה דברים שעדיין חסרים, וזה, אני אגיד באנגלית, the regulatory infrastructure. You can't just have people flying around without any regulations, large quantities of aircraft flying into urban airspace without having some kind of strict regulatory infrastructure. This is being worked on in places like NASA and in Europe at the Civil Aviation Authority.
אבל הטכנולוגיה עצמה בשלה, מעבר לרגולציה שזה חסם
Yes,
די...
but this is the regulation is one of the things that will really take a long time.
בעולם דמיוני נגיד שלא הייתה רגולציה. היום, כבר היום, אפשר שיהיה מכוניות מעופפות לכל אחד?
לא ממש. כי קודם כל, חוץ מרגולציה, גם יש את העניין של certification. It has to be safe. It has to pass FAA certification standards before people can fly in it. Our aircraft is designed to meet those standards, but it's also very expensive. In order to meet those standards, we had to use turbine-powered aerospace engines, which alone are very expensive. So the aircraft becomes something that is out of the reach of the ordinary person in terms of cost.
אוקיי, בואו ננסה לעשות שיעור בהיסטוריה. מה קרה עד עכשיו שמבחינת כלי רכב תעופה, מה פיתחו ואיפה זה עומד היום?
Okay, there have been a lot of experiments in terms of flying cars. There are a lot of projects which are what one would call roadable aircraft. They're a kind of hybrid, which is a car with wings. You've seen maybe Terrafugia, things that are considered flying cars. These are hybrids. They have wings. They don't take off vertically in the kind of conventional sense of the fantasy of the flying car is that you just take off vertically from your driveway and fly. These hybrid cars, which have existed already for quite some time, require a runway like an airplane, so they require an airport.
אז מה בכל זאת הופך אותם להיות מכונית בעצם?
The only thing is that you fold the wings and you can drive without having to change to a car.
Okay.
In our opinion, this doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why we are going the different route, which is vertical takeoff and landing, where you will take off from any spot that you like, fly to exactly where you need to get, and land. And this is much closer, it's true, to the flying car concept that we all have in our
אוקיי, אבל
fantasy.
גם צריך להגיד בהגינות שזה לא מדובר עדיין על תחום האזרחי, אלא רק בעיקר לתחום צבאי.
It will begin probably with the military and also with the same people who are flying helicopters today. So it might be for like an executive taxi, it would be for police, for emergency response. This is really one of the most important things. Flying ambulances that can land anywhere in a city, anywhere where a patient needs to be taken.
אבל אולי בעצם לא צריך את זה. אולי זה מין סוג של חזון טכנולוגי נורא רומנטי. לא, באמת, יש הליקופטרים ומסוקים שיכולים להטיס אותנו לכל מקום.
The problem is that they can't get into, imagine for instance, that you have a dirty bomb in the middle of a city, in the middle of Manhattan. Now, people know that something happened. They don't know what. They're trying to get away. So everybody's rushing out of the city in their cars. People panic. They leave their cars in the middle of the street. Everything gets clogged. Everything gets stuck. No helicopter can come down into the middle of the city to see what's happening, to help people, to evacuate people. These are the kinds of situations.
אוקיי, אבל זה תסריט שהוא נורא קיצוני וחריג.
No,
בוא נלך על היום-יום הרגיל.
There's also, for instance, we were contacted with, after Fukushima, after the meltdown at the
ומסוק לא יכול?
a helicopter, because of the rotor, because of this huge rotor, can't enter into a building like that and see what's happening and actually do work. Our aircraft can be outfitted with mechanical arms that can actually do work inside of a building like that where you wouldn't want to send a human being. Our current version is unmanned, completely flies itself. You can have telepresence with an operator sitting anywhere in the world who is manipulating arms and doing this work.
אוקיי, אז בואו נספר קצת.
There's a lot of emergency work, routine work, and all kinds of other utility work that helicopters either do badly today or can't do today.
אוקיי, אז בואו נספר קצת איך בכלל עלה לכם הרעיון להקים את החברה ומה בעצם, איפה אתם נמצאים כרגע?
The idea came basically out of Yואלי, who's the CEO, who's worked for already before he started, had worked for 25 years in aerospace at IAI. He had his own company that developed all kinds of prototypes. And he was always interested in vertical takeoff and landing and wanted to address one of the real remaining challenges in aerospace, which is internal rotors, and something that can fly in space where nothing else can fly. So he established the company in 2001, and we've been developing the technology, and we're now currently in flight tests of the Air Mule, which is an unmanned model, turbine-powered, designed to meet FAA certification standards, that's primarily intended for military use, for cargo resupply and medical evacuation.
Okay, can you go into specific לגבי הטכנולוגיה? איך זה בעצם עובד?
Well, it works like a helicopter works. It basically, you throw air down through a propeller. There are two propellers inside of the fuselage that throw air down. This creates the lift. Our proprietary technology has everything to do with the aerodynamics. The problem with making this idea a reality in the past, because people had this idea in the past of internal rotors, the biggest problem was that these were very difficult to control. And our company came up with the aerodynamic innovations which make it possible not only to control it, but to control it better than any other aircraft could be controlled.
למה קשה לשלוט בזה? כי זה לא...
Well, it is by nature an unstable design. First of all, you look at it, it has a duct, it has a lot of drag, it's very susceptible to wind gusts, and it's a small rotor. All of these things make it very unstable, almost impossible to fly without a flight computer, which we have.
ואיפה אתם עכשיו מבחינת פיתוח
We're flight testing the unmanned version, which is the basis also for...
איפה אתם בודקים את זה?
We're doing the flight testing here in Israel, in central Israel.
עם צה"ל?
No, we're doing it on our own. The company is privately funded. We get some funding from Mafat, but essentially most of the funding is private funding.
והמשקיעים שלכם מקווים שיום אחד מה יקרה עם זה, שמי יקנה את זה?
The investors believe, and we believe very strongly, that we will have a major military market and also a major civil market, maybe even a larger civil market eventually than a military market. But the initial market will certainly be military. And that's true of virtually every new aircraft that has ever existed. Helicopters. Helicopters began their life in the Vietnam War. It was only then, through the Vietnam War, that people saw what they could do.
תסבירי לי איך זה הולך לעבוד בפועל. נגיד סיימתם לפתח, הכל, קיבלתם אישורים, הכל בטיחותי. מה יקרה? יהיה דבר כזה בכל בסיס, ואז יוזעק, תעשי לי תיאור של מקרה.
The way that we see it working is that this is something which would be deployed on the brigade level. Basically, it is a support for ground troops in the military. Especially at the beginning of any kind of battle, it's very difficult to supply the troops. This was a problem that we saw in the last Lebanon war, that at the beginning the troops didn't get supplies, they didn't have medical evacuation to a very long time. Right, we would be like, there would be several in each brigade that would be just behind the battle lines, like a taxi stand. Commander calls in, says, I need X supplies or I have a wounded soldier.
אנחנו צריכים לסייר, רק תגידי לי, כמה דבר כזה יכול לעלות בקצרה?
Each one would cost about $2 million, which is about the cost.
אז אם יש לכם $2 מיליון, אולי...
Yeah, I mean, if you personally want to buy one,
בטח, אני כן. תודה רבה, ג'נין.
Sure.